Hey folks, my name is Jaxsun. Today we're going to touch on some of the changes that are coming with patch 9.15 around Holy Death Knight and how competitive it's going to be in Mythic Plus. So overall, Unholy is seeing quite a few changes compared to a few other different classes, um, specifically around a number of abilities, and that's really encouraging for us. Unholy was an absolute machine in BFA, and then with all of the target capping restrictions that came into place, it really kind of fell out of favor really quickly. So bursting swords no longer target capped, now deals reduced damage beyond 8 targets. Cool, we can live with a soft cap. Sacrificial pact is no longer target capped and deals reduced damage beyond 5 targets. Cool, another soft cap, but we can live with it. Reanimated Shambler, this legendary effect is no longer target capped, applying a festering wound to all enemies and now deals reduced damage beyond 5 targets. That's kind of neutral. Abomination Limb is no longer target capped and now deals reduced damage beyond 5 targets. That's fantastic because I'll pull it up now. We really see the distribution of covenants. Necrolords looking over 80% of the time. So 4 out of every 5 Unholy Death Knights playing right now are doing Necro. And it just fits thematically with what it is that Necro is all about. So I'm cool with this, but I was surprised that we didn't see more kind of covenant balancing from Blizzard in terms of trying to juice up the other covenants a little bit more, but maybe they're happy with this distribution we're looking at. Shackle the Unworthy, it's actually been nerfed and now has a 100% chance to spread to a nearby target. So if you're not familiar, that's the Kyrian ability. It basically improves our AoE damage that we're supposed to produce. I don't think it'll be enough to increase those numbers that I was just showing you. 2% Kyrian is about as low as it can possibly get. That's amazing. We've seen some buffs to some conduits, both for Night Fae and Venthyr. Night Fae had their Withering Ground conduit buffed by 50%. Venthyr had the Impenetrable Gloom buffed by 50%. This could be a little more attractive for large AoE packs, but I still think overall Necrolord is the preferred go-to. Now let's jump into the fun stuff for talents. For Mythic Plus, there's a few different options here for us, and that's great because we want as much choice as we can possibly get our hands on. Tier 1, you can go with Infected Claws or Clawing Shadows. So it really just kind of comes down to like what your preference specifically is, and it's really tied to like what your melee uptime you expect you're going to experience. Tier 2, kind of similar. You can go with 1 or 3 Bursting Swords or Unholy Blight. You want to take Bursting Swords if you're going for really like extremely big pulls for Mythic Plus, or if you're in like consistent AoE situations where you're trying to like burn down a number of targets. Unholy Blight is probably more of the default choice because it's versatile for both AoE and single target. So picture it that way if you're less familiar. Bursting Swords is passive, so if you're new to the class or new to the spec, go with some of the passive talents right off the bat, and they'll allow you to focus on learning your rotation first, and then we'll add a couple additional talents after that. Tier 3, it really comes down to like just where your priority is. I always like having a stun. Asphyxiate is my preferred way to go. We definitely have a grip, so we can use that for an interrupt, but having a material improvement like this really helps. Alright, Tier 4, we kind of see a little bit more of a change. You can go with Soul Reaper, like what we've done here, or Pestilent Pustulutes. It really just comes down to what you want to go with. Bursting a Festering Wound has a 10% chance to grant you Runic Corruption, or basically Soul Reaper. It's effectively selecting an execute option, which is actually really satisfying. After playing a lot of Arms and Fury Warrior within the Venthyr Covenant, I feel like every melee class needs to have an execute function. Tier 5, you're going to go with Spell Eater or Wraithwalk. Because this Death Knight, I've got a few. This one specifically is a Worgen. I won't take Wraithwalk, but if I was, I don't know, a Dwarf or an Orc or a Zandalari Troll, like my other Death Knights, yeah, I'd probably consider this one a bit more, but I don't think I need a third speed buff at the moment. What I will take advantage of, though, is the just passive benefit from anti-magic shell, basically being able to absorb 30% more magic damage and last 5 seconds longer. That's something we can credibly use for sure. Alternatively, you can go with Death Pact as a, I don't want to call it a cheat death because it's not, but it'll certainly drive up your health if you find that you're in a pinch. So it's a good option as well. Tier 6, a little bit less options. Unholy Pact is the go-to. Like, bar none, it knocks away any of the other options. It's solid in AoE, it's solid in single target, it's better than the other two talents on this row. Just a really solid ability for us. And finally, Tier 7, and it's kind of interesting, this one. For Mythic Plus, you really want to go with Army of the Dead. Alternatively, though, if you're going to go in like incredibly high AoE burst, like we're talking like MDI level of pulls, where you've got a pack and another pack at least, and then you're trying to pull that into a mini boss, you can look at Unholy Assault. You will slowly start to take some interesting benefits here on any kind of short fights where you can get an incredibly high amount of burst sores kind of going. So if you can line up Infected Claws with burst sores and Unholy Assault, you'll actually find that you'll outperform your Army of the Damned in this style. But it's going to require like literally that kind of multiple pack pull to actually make it worth your while. It's an ideal talent if that's what your group is aligned on, and it's got a really quick cooldown and really high burst potential. And that's kind of the story with Unholy overall. Not very good sustained single target or AoE damage, but its AoE burst is just second to none. It's absolutely incredible from a class that's marginally melee. It's always just one that's just on the fence a little bit. Now, we spoke about it. Necrolord is the best covenant that you want to pursue, and then Plague Deviser Merilith is the soulbind that you probably want to rock with. You can check out Helmir, but ultimately I think Merilith is who will treat you the best, so take care of her. In terms of legendaries, there's a couple that you can play with here. Frenzied Monstrosity is very simple. Basically gives you and your abomination an additional 12% attack speed during Dark Transformation. Provides you with some heavy damage during Dark Transformation, which is very strong in AoE. So we really like that in terms of Mythic Plus. Outside of that, like overall, that's probably going to be your go-to in the majority of Mythic Plus content that you're going to run. So keep that in mind, or let me know down in the comments if you're choosing to go with a different legendary for Unholy. Alright folks, thanks for checking out the vid, and I'll talk to you all soon. Later.